Hey, I know you don't have this PowerPoint, but we're just looking at images again, and I'm going over content that we saw in our notes. So we're going to look at the war for mobilization through some propaganda and enlistment. So this is the most infamous one, the most famous recruitment poster, I want you for the U.S. Army. Most of us have seen this. It comes out of World War I. Here's Uncle Sam, enlist now. Just, again, very patriotic things. The Navy is now calling, so we see people trying to get enlistments going on. We saw this one on our last PowerPoint. Tell that to the Marines that Huns and children were killed. Another cool thing was the little soldier, that many young boys felt that they could help their brothers by, and they're going to practice, but they're going to collect stamps, and they're going to collect tin, they're going to collect rubber to send to the government so that they could be able to make war materials. Okay, there's going to be new songs created to get us involved.
Get your gun, get your gun. Take it on the run, on the run, on the run. Hear him calling you and me. Every son of liberty. Hurry right away, no delay, go today. Make your daddy glad to have had such a lad. Tell your sweetheart not to mind, to be proud her boys in line. Over there, over there. Send the word over there. That the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming. The drums thumping everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer. Send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there.
Oh,
Johnny, get your gun, get your gun, get your gun. Johnny, show the Hun you're a son of a gun. Fight the flag and let her fly. Yankee do or die. Like your little kid, show your grit, do your bit. Yankee to the ranks from the towns and the tanks. Make your mama proud of you and the old red, white, and blue. Over there, send the word over there. That the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming. The drums thumping everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer. Send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there.
I'm sorry, guys. You're going to be singing that song all day long. I'm sorry, Miss Morgan. I couldn't just skip through the song because I had programmed it in here. Again, the Committee of Public Information is going to create films. It's going to create music. It's going to create the propaganda to get people involved in the war. So I'm sorry that you're going to be singing Johnny Get Your Gun all day. We're going to see that propaganda will continue. So the Selective Service Act is going to register men for the war through the draft. We're going to see that not many will see active combat, but because we don't enter the war till 1917, our soldiers are going to be called doughboys because they're quickly put through these training camps in 6 weeks, sent over there. And dough, if you know about it, I'm not referring to money, but dough, like for bread, it's not ready. And so that's the nickname we give our soldiers. We'll see African Americans will serve in segregated units with white officers. And we will see Native Americans. At this time, we are going to use the Native Americans, specifically the Cherokees, to serve as scouts and actually code talkers. Eventually, what happens with the use of the Cherokees will lead us to using the Navajo in World War II. So we're going to see the expansion of the federal government. We saw the War Industries Board created. We're going to see the Food Administration created, the Railroad Administration, and the National War Labor Board. Its whole purpose is to organize our economy to be efficient so that we could supply both the allies and our soldiers with the needs for war. So again, other propaganda, the world cried for food, keep your home garden so you make your own food so we can send the food in America to our soldiers and our allies. At this time, remember, sugar is really important because it takes a lot of ships. But if we stop using sugar, that could mean a lot more ships getting into the war effort. So it's encouraging Americans, instead of using sugar, use molasses. Don't waste food. You probably heard your parents say, eat all your food because there's starving kids in Africa. Well, at this time, it says don't waste your food while others starved in the war. This one's cool because it says, what are you doing? You could help can the Kaiser. So there's Kaiser Wilhelm. Again, we're going to encourage our students to create their own victory gardens. Here's another shipping one, just conserving fuel. Coal is another important thing because that's going to heat our ships, fuel our ships, save gasoline. So we're going to see the result of our new economy. We know our government's moving capitalism to controlling our economy. So we're going to see unemployment disappears. We see the expansion of big government. What we saw during the Gilded Age, very laissez-faire, let businesses do what they want. That is actually going to be a little bit different. The government's going to come into business, tell them exactly what to do. It's going to allocate the resources. We see excessive government regulation because they're going to say we need to give decent wages to workers. We're going to see close cooperation between the public and private sectors and an unprecedented opportunity for disadvantaged groups. We're going to see African Americans move north in the Great Migration to take those jobs that they previously had not been able to take, and women move into the workforce who previously hadn't because of the Selective Service Act that is taking men out of the workforce. So new opportunities, we see women will join auxiliaries. So here is a woman cable connector who's coming into the WAC and coming in and helping in the war effort. We see women coming into the workforce making munitions. And we see our women actually bringing in other animals needed to our soldiers. And eventually in World War II will be planes. We saw this political cartoon saying women wanted to join the military, but they couldn't because they will be prohibited. We'll eventually talk about women getting into the military after the 1960s. Again, grandma could help out by sending money to the bonds. And we saw the American Red Cross with Clara Barton during the Progressive Era. It would be very involved in World War I. Again, here's another auxiliary. African Americans, we're going to see the Great Migration. They're going to move from the South, where they are sharecroppers, tenant farmers, and move up north for those unprecedented jobs that they never had opportunities to because men were drafted into the military. And we're going to see they enlist in segregated units. A lot of them are invoked by what happened from the Civil War. Here's just a color unit advertisement. One of the cool things of World War I is that a lot of our military vans will be African Americans. We're going to see, because of the mass migration to northern cities, race riots will break out. And we'll talk about this after the war, building into the 1920s. New immigrants are going to be encouraged to help with the war, buying bonds. Again, help buy bonds. Enter, give relief so that we do not perish. Wartime propaganda. The Committee of Public Information is going to organize this. We see it's very anti-German. It's going to sell American culture. We saw this political cartoon on our other PowerPoint. This one is Destroy the Map Brute, and it kind of has King Kong before his time with a German helmet. And here's Lady Liberty. It says, destroy this map brute. And if you see under his feet, it says America, and then it says culture. The only way to prevent the brute from coming to America, and this is one of the greatest fears we'll have in World War I and World War II, is that if England is taken over, that Germany can invade us. And so this is just that whole thing that we need to enlist in the army. We saw this political cartoon. This one's Crush the Menace of the Sea. This hand with the knife should evoke the idea of unrestricted submarine warfare, and the only way we could do this is by bonds. We see films created at this time, and we'll see that more in the 1920s. Films become very popular. We're going to see the government is going to basically limit the freedoms of people. We see the Espionage Act that is going out to take anybody who is obstructing in the war effort, spying, sending anything leftist material in the newspapers could be fined up to $10,000 or 20 years in prison. This is why Eugene V. Debs goes to jail. The Sedition Act limits a speech, saying if anything you utter, print, or publish that is disloyal to our government or that criticizes our government could lead to you going to jail. And so this is a violation of the First Amendment right. And we'll see the Supreme Court will uphold this in Schneck versus the United States. And Oliver Wendell Holmes, he says, anything that presents clear and present danger allows our U.S. government to infringe on people's rights. So, like, let's just say we're sitting, and this is the example he gives, we're sitting in a crowded theater and Ms. Radine yells fire when there's no fire. It's going to create pandemonium. And so my free speech actually can hurt others. And so that's why the government can limit my speech when it leads to the potential of harming others. And so Schneck versus the United States will allow for the government during war to always limit people's civil liberties for the protection of the greater good, which will eventually lead to our Patriot Act, which is out today. We're going to see Abrams versus the U.S. Again, that clear and present danger doctrine comes in. It's, again, the government has the right to limit people's freedoms for the security of the greater good. And so we will see that we're going to have strikes after the war, and many of these strikes are for better wages, better hours, better working conditions, and we will have political cartoons that will come out about this. So again, the U.S. is closed on account of strikes, and this is very unpatriotic. How are we going to help the war effort? Again, labor and capital leads to foreign competitions excelling. And this is Uncle Sam. I like this one. He's slapping labor unions on the bottom because he's sick and tired of this. Like, how are we going to be patriotic? How are we going to help in the war if labor's striking? And again, labor gets to be associated with the idea of red, communists, anarchists. And so by associating with that, that is going to lead to at least stopping labor from and making them second think if they should get involved in strikes. Again, and we're going to talk about the Red Scare, this fear that communism is coming to America. Just another strike. Okay, so the Red Scare is this whole fear that of a world revolution, of turning to communism and how it threatens capitalism. And we'll see this in the 1920s when Mitchell Palmer goes looking for the Reds, and we'll talk about that more when we get to the 1920s. I'm going to talk about more of the Prohibition in the 1920s and the Red Scare in the 1920s and us looking for these communists in America. We see eventually there's Eugene V. Debs. He runs from jail this time. But many people in the 1920 election want to return to normalcy. And they, Warren Harding saying, we're going to go back. We're going to get done with being involved in the war and just return back to normal times. And that's why he gets elected in the 1920s. Okay, I looked over a couple things of propaganda, reviewed our notes. What you will do now is take out your books, work on your study guide. You have time. Next time we're going to be watching a video called Shell Shocked. It'll probably take up the whole class. So I'm going to look at how much time our class is and how long the video is. and I may change that. We may start a little bit today of the video and then finish it up next time, because I think that video is really long. So maybe look over the times, and I may suggest to Miss Morgan, instead of giving y'all study guide time, to start the video. Sorry to give y'all instructions and then later deter for them, but I'm going to look at how long that video is. So we may start some of the video today, but Miss Morgan will tell y'all if we have video time or study guide time, because next time on Friday we'll be watching a video. So if you're not here, you can find that video. It's going to be shell shock, so I'm going to pull it up on my laptop. You will just go to YouTube, and we will start a video series, and we'll be doing questions with it. It's going to be called the Century Video Shell Shock. If you're not here on Friday, I pull up this guy, and I'll link it to our classroom that we're going to be watching, and you will have questions with it that will be turned in. Okay, so Miss Morgan will have instructions for me if we start the video today, so we can finish it up next time.